Hi, everybody. My name is Buddy Gott. Welcome to Buddy's Writing Show, episode 31. On tonight's episode, I am very happy to have Garrett Robinson return to the show. Welcome, Garrett.
Hi, how's it going, everybody?
I bet everybody's doing great because they want to hear all about VLOGANOVEL. Garrett's been, for those who don't know, Garrett's been doing this cool project. I guess you're just starting your third week of it, right, Garrett?
Yeah, that's right. I did the first episode of episode three. That's confusing, but I did the first hour of work on episode three last night, and I'm going to be doing it again tonight, late into the morning.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you have been busy, and I've gotten online at like 3, 4 in the morning here on the East Coast, and it looks like you're just starting your night.
Yeah.
So, for those who don't know, can you kind of just, well, I described it in the title of this, that you're writing books, live online for people and for people to see and like to even to participate in the process. But I'm sure you can explain it better than I.
Yeah, well, I mean, in short, that's kind of it. But obviously, it was strongly inspired by Fiction Unboxed from Johnny and Sean over at the Self Publishing Podcast. I'm sure you've probably talked about that in the past, and people mostly know about it. But they did a Kickstarter campaign to like pre-fund a live production of a book where like people got to participate like a lot. They got to decide the genre and vote on the world and do all kinds of stuff like that. And I didn't want to do that. First of all, I'm not good at Kickstarter campaigns. They're genius marketers and they've got a huge audience, so for them it was no problem. And it just not really my cup of tea. But then I wanted to be I wanted to be simultaneously less inclusive in the process, but also more inclusive. Because the one thing that they didn't do was literally have Johnny there on screen, like doing the writing. Like he would post it as soon as he was done. So what I decided to do is literally just, and also I'm turning YouTube into more and more of a thing. I vlog now and whatnot. So all I do is when I start writing, I just turn the camera on and I say, "Hi guys, so this is me working on my book," and I screen share so that people can actually see what I'm doing. And then I do the outline, I write the first draft, I do the editing, I do the final read-through, and I do the audiobook recording, all just live on the air. And I keep each video to an hour, so I do an hour, take a break, do an hour, take a break, and it's literally just beginning to end the entire process. Now, every once in a while, I do say, "Hey, I need a name," and a live viewer will say, "Catherine," and I'm like, "Oh, Catherine, that's good," and I'll put it. Simon Canton has named a couple of characters. Some other live viewers have named a couple of characters. So there is like some degree of interaction, but mostly it's just to hang out and also for accountability, which is huge benefit.
It's fun. It's fun. I tuned in pretty early in the process, and I wasn't sure what to expect, but I found myself like kind of getting sucked into it. I'm like, oh, it's cool. Garrett's writing, and you had like people in the comments, all the shows that I've been there, kind of rooting you on and cheering you on. And I was there one night where you were looking for the name of a city.
Right.
Or a name for a town, and a couple people gave ideas. I typed in Bolgerville, and you didn't want to use that, which I understand. And I thought I'd throw a little shout out to writer ZC Bolger, but it's your book, man. It's cool.
I might name a character in the book Bolger.
Oh, there you go. There you go. He would like that. He would like that.
He would love it.
He would. Now, you're starting them on Monday, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're publishing on Friday.
Well, I should be starting on Saturday, but yeah.
Well, you're a busy guy. You got a family. You got a baby and everything. But so these books now, how you said it's an ongoing series, right? There's no set amount at this point.
That's right. It's going to be released in volumes. Each episode is 10,000 words. I'm going to collect them in volumes of 8, so that'll be about every 2 months I'll release a new volume, but every week there's a new episode. And that'll make the volumes good-sized novels, but not Realm Keeper size, not like these epic volumes of whatever. It's just nice little chunks you can get every couple months if you want to, if you don't want to do like the weekly reading experience, which some people don't, and that's totally fine.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah.
And I don't think we mentioned it yet, but the series, it's the NIGHTBLADE series.
Yes, that is the name.
Yeah. And what is that basically about, Garrett?
Well, it's about this story is about a girl named Lauren who has grown up in a forest, and her family is extremely abusive and emotionally messed up, and she has kind of survived it by picturing and dreaming, running out and escaping and getting into the world and becoming like a master thief. The only problem is she doesn't know anything about being a master thief, and when she goes out and it's like, I'm going to do this, and she just kind of sucks at it. Um, so it is a fantasy series. It's kind of dark. It's not. It's definitely not like it's not Game of Thrones dark, but it's not happy-go-lucky either. But interestingly, this story is actually a backstory project for an epic fantasy series that I've been wanting to do for a long time, and that's going to be 4 big old books, and all that. But this is my way of doing a continuous world building process for the world that those books are going to take place in.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's pretty cool. So you've had this on your mind for a while then.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
been working on that other series for years and years. I actually even like made posters for it at some point.
Oh, that's very cool. That's very cool.
Yeah.
This kind of leads into my next question, and that was, you said that you've had that series in your mind years ago. Now for this, you mentioned that hey, in the first episode each week, you'll outline. Like when you did episode 1, did you already have in your head, a pretty like outlined, like an outline in your head for this before you started, or was most of it you sat down and you just got into it?
I had a decent idea. I knew that the first episode would be establishing her family and then her actually escaping the forest. I didn't know. I didn't know who the secondary characters would be other than her parents, and I didn't know what was going to be happening in the season. And so when I sat down to do episode 1, I actually outlined very briefly the entire season,
Oh,
and
wow.
then yeah, and used that as the basis for then expanding the outline on episode 1. Now, when I did that, I had to revise. When I got to episode 2, episode 1 had changed the season, so I had to go back and revise the outline for the rest of the season pretty significantly
Hmm.
and write episode 2. Then when I was done with episode 2, now I'm going back into episode 3, and I'm like, the season's all screwed up again. So now I'm heavily revising it again. But this should be the last time because I've finally found my feet. I feel like.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. This is
Yeah.
really, really interesting the way that you were doing this. Like I said, I've watched some of the shows and it's fascinating to me. I mean, I've known for a long time because we've known each other for a year or so now. I know you're a fast writer, but still, to see you do like last year when we were doing Realm Keepers,
Yeah.
I would get an email, that hey, I've got like so many more thousand words to write, and then like 2 days later, I've got the book and being sent to me,
Yeah.
which was awesome. And this is equally, if not more, awesome. I really love that what you're doing here. It's very exciting, and I wish you luck with it.
It's pretty cool. One side benefit, this is not by any means the most important thing, but one side benefit is that I have such a good estimate on time now. Like I know much better. I always knew that I wrote 2,000 words an hour because I always timed that. But now the first episode from beginning to end of the creation process was 16 hours total. And then the second episode, beginning to end, was 13 hours total, and I'm estimating that episode 3 might be 10 hours total. So that is so valuable to know in terms of outlining and cover design and just everything. It's really cool to actually be able to add it all up and plan out your production for the next week.
Yeah, that's great. And
Yeah.
I just learned, I guess, a week or so ago that you were doing audiobooks. You had done them, I guess, for some of your earlier books too. You talked about it a little bit on STP one night.
Yeah, I did one for NonZombie, but I never really did anything with it. I got one check from ACX, I think just because people were like, I got 12 sales on the first 2 weeks. I think just because people were like, oh, an audiobook, and then literally since that time, nothing's happened. But so I'm going to be doing a weekly audiobook for each episode because all it is my final editing pass is always reading out loud. So now I'm just like, well, hey, why don't I just read out loud and use that as my recording for the audiobook? It ends up taking longer than my normal read out loud, but you're producing an entire another sellable property.
Right. Yeah, that's fantastic.
The only thing is that since I hit publish on episode 1 with ACX, it's now been 10 days and it still hasn't gone live to market. And I'm like, come on, motherfuckers. Like, hurry up, Jesus. But, yeah.
Well, I'll make some calls there. Okay, we'll get this fixed. You've got Well, you always have so much in the works, Garrett. I did mention STP, and I don't know if I mentioned it earlier. That's the weekly show that you do with Zach Bolger, ZZ Bolger, and Chrissy
Hmm.
Moss. That's a storytelling podcast, and people can
Hmm.
check that out. It's been kind of like you said. There's been told me there's some things going on, but normally it's on Monday nights at it's 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then is it?
Yeah.
Or no, I'm sorry. What is it?
No,
Is
you
that
got
right?
it. 10 p.m. Eastern Standard
Standard
Time.
Time.
We've had scheduling problems for a few weeks because Zach, one of the co-hosts, has been doing a little traveling and some business stuff, but now he's going to be back in Miami next week, so we get to be on schedule again. Yay!
It's tough with doing the shows. I know from like the
Oh,
2, 3 shows I do, just like even like getting things lined up with guests, it's really hard
mhm.
to like keep it on a certain schedule all the time.
Totally, totally. It's crazy. But every time I start to want to complain about something, I'm like, I write books for a living. Like, shut up. That's freaking awesome.
Yeah, and you've been doing it for what, about a year and a half now, full time?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
December 2012 was my first book ever, and what was it? May was when I did not quit my job. I was let go from my job.
Yeah, I remember.
But since then, it's been full time. So that's a year and a couple months. It's crazy, man.
That's fantastic, fantastic. You've got another book coming out soon. I don't think it's out yet. If so, I'm gonna be mad because I'm really anxious to read it. And that's Rebel Yell.
That's right. That's the red one on the shelf back there.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. You did that cover yourself, right? I think we talked about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
do all my covers myself. Although I have to say, I came up with a basic on that one. David Wright was the one who said make it red, and also chose that font, which I love. And Chrissy, basically, I found a stock image of the guitar, except it wasn't even like a stock image, and I couldn't basically I couldn't use it. So I did the mock-up, and then Chrissy Moss actually drew that image for me, which again is just fantastic.
Oh,
So
fantastic.
yeah,
Now, when is that one coming out?
that's August 15th. So that's 17 days from now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now, I'm excited about this one because I'm a big music junkie. I'm a big rock and roll fan, and I know a little bit about this just because I've seen you, post about it before. But what can you tell the viewers about this story?
Well, Rebel Yell is basically it is not genre at all. Like it's not sci-fi or fantasy like I normally do, or thrillers like Hit Girls or horror or anything. It's what they condescendingly call literary fiction, and it is
Right.
about independent art versus industry art, and it's really a story about independent authors, or just authors in general, authors who want to write for a living. But it's set in the world of music, and so it's an independent singer-songwriter instead, and it's him wanting so desperately to be a part of the industry, and yet the industry doesn't care about him or music, they care about dollars. And that is true in all the artistic industries today.
Hmm.
It's very true in publishing. We see it probably more clearly than anybody else. And just because like the publishing industry I feel has taken longer than music, and in some ways longer than film, to come around to the fact that the industry, the big companies, the big five, the big six, and whatnot, they serve other masters. They are not the top dogs, and now systems finally are in place where we don't necessarily need them anymore. And it's become quite vicious in some instances. The Amazon Hachette thing being one.
Yeah, that's for sure. But you're right. I mean, you look at everything in the entertainment industry. With films. With people doing their own shows. People used to. You can do it online now instead of on TV, and
Right.
people are having success with that. And music for years. Now people have been putting their stuff up online, selling it that way directly. And yeah, books. It is a newer thing, but yeah, there is like a they all kind of go through the same thing, huh? All the artists in all these different fields. It's
Yeah, for
interesting.
sure. And I think that one of the reasons that music got out of it so early was that they have always, and in antiquity and history and so forth, they have always existed on the back of, what do you call it? On the back of live events. That is
Mhm.
what music started out as, and that is what it returned to. Eventually, when it became when independent art became post a song on YouTube and gained millions of fans, they didn't need iTunes to sell their music. Everybody says that like the music industry died when iTunes came around. That wasn't even necessarily the case because people were already going indie by doing, getting big on YouTube and MySpace, which is still big with musicians to this day,
Yeah.
and then they'd gain fans, and then they'd start doing live shows, and they could just make money at their live shows. You couldn't do that as a publisher or as a filmmaker because, as a publisher, like, what are you going to do? A live reading? Like, people aren't going to pay money to go see that. That's something that you can do, but you need to get the books in their hands. And filmmaking, it's like you can make independent films and rent out a theater and charge a ticket price, but it's just cost effective wise, it's not productive at all. So music had that tremendous advantage, which is that, and its interest level is why I chose to use it in the book, because eventually, as with all my books, I want to turn Rebel Yell into a movie. And it's much more interesting to watch a movie about a band performing on stage than to watch a movie about an independent writer sitting at his computer tapping away at keys.
Right,
Like,
right,
you
right.
know.
I mean, I'd find that interesting, but yeah, I think the general
Well,
public.
I mean, hey, people are watching Vlog and Novel, so what the fuck do I know?
It's damn fine entertainment. And speaking of things that they're watching starring the lovely and talented Garrett Robinson, you mentioned how you vlog pretty frequently. And that is true. You have some really cool things. Like I know recently you had one, How to Write a Novel. I think today you posted How to Write a Sequel. You had one, I think it was last week, or maybe it was the week before, that I had watched and my fiance Lisa had watched, and it's the first thing she ever actually saw of yours, and she got the biggest kick out of it. You were talking about how when things maybe don't take off the way you want them to, and
Mm,
you were doing the whole ka-ching thing
yeah.
throughout it, and there was just like rapid shots of you because you're a director and I've seen your work, so you're a very talented director, and that's what makes these vlogs of yours, I think, fun, is that you've got your experience directing and the different things you've learned in the film industry that you put into your vlogs, and I think that makes them a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. I do like the vlogging quite a bit, and it gives me, first of all, it gives me a platform to talk about things like, I make entertaining videos in general. It's like another version of a newsletter, and like with so many things, it is in some ways better than a newsletter, and in some ways worse. The ways that it's worse than a newsletter is that the sale ratio is not as good. People sign up for my newsletter because they want to know about future books. So when I email, "Hey, new book," people are like, "Oh, put it in my face." People follow my YouTube videos primarily for entertainment, and then like a podcast or like most of the things that we do, they just kind of get to like you. They turn into people who enjoy you. So then when you say you have a book out, some of them, yes, want to go and buy it. Some of them don't really care, and they just want tomorrow's video with the entertainment. But one thing I am doing on my vlog is I'm doing a weekly recap of Vlog a Novel. So the first one was How to Write a Book, like you said. That was really fun, where I just got to announce I'm doing Vlog a Novel, and here's the first book. And then How to Write a Sequel was what changed about the story, what I was trying to do differently than the week before in the episodes. And I can do that just like the Game of Thrones, when they're putting out an episode every week, they have all these behind the scenes videos. A lot of people don't even know they exist. But the super fans like me, I go and I watch all this behind the scenes stuff about, like, oh, what was that scene like, and what da da da, and it's less exciting because it's writing a book instead of making a TV show. But I as a fan of other things, I really like that behind the scenes look, and that's what I'm trying to do with it.
Right. Yeah, I enjoy that too. I enjoy that, if it's a DVD I'm watching, and I enjoy that. I've seen different authors do that, just writing about, well, you see that a lot in books, like the writer's notes, or, you see it more and more online now. I find the process fascinating. Even before I was
Yeah,
into writing myself as a reader, I found it fascinating to like know
totally.
those things. And I think what's cool too is, you mentioned how you do have the newsletter, you might do things on your website, and then the vlog. Well, I think what's neat for the readers, for the viewers, is they're getting to know more about you.
Hmm.
Even if they've never read your works before, they you can see. I've gotten into like becoming a fan of different writers just because I've seen different videos they've done online. I kind of like them as a person. I find them entertaining, and that's just another way to grow your audience and keep your current audience entertained. I think it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And you do reach a point where everything builds on everything. John Green, I mean, is a huge example. For anybody who doesn't know, he's the author of The Fault in Our Stars, which he was already a published author. So it's not like he just came out of nowhere. So he was a published author. He'd had a couple of books that did pretty well, and then he started his YouTube channel, and like the readers of the book were like, what's YouTube? And YouTube channel people were like, no, I want video, I don't care about your books. But as his audience grew and grew to love him more and more, and the channel became its own big thing, then another book, on top of the channel, on top of another book, on top of the channel, so that then by the time The Fault in Our Stars came out, I mean, that book sat at the top of the New York Times bestseller list at the #1 spot for like 48 weeks in a row. It was
I know.
insane.
Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So good for him. I think it's a fantastic book, and it's just one of those things where I do feel like we live in a space today where people want all access all the time to their favorite celebrities. That in some ways that sucks, and I know a lot of artists who are introverted and don't like that, and fortunately I do kind of like it. I know that makes me very narcissistic, but whatever. I'm like, if people every time somebody's like good review or a good comment or is like, oh, wants to talk to me about something, I really do enjoy it. So lucky me.
Well, it's fun though. I mean, I don't. My first book's not coming out till next month, but even just from the videos I do, because I do like the walking show, the Walking Buddy. I have this at the Night Fiction Club. Sometimes I'll get like a comment that's a compliment from someone I don't even know, and even with that, that's a nice pick me up. It makes you feel good.
It's the best.
Like I tell some ridiculous joke, and someone says, "Oh man, that's hilarious." Yeah, that makes you feel good. So I'm glad you're getting the feedback that you are.
It's the best. I prefer
stuff.
Yeah, and I love all like people who I've been hanging out with for a year. Everybody on Spurt, the SPP guys, everything like that. And I love our discussion. That's the aspect of our relationship that I really, really love. But honestly, it's like when you have family and you put out your first book or your first couple books or whatever, and like your mom jumps on Amazon and she leaves you a 5-star review because this is just, and you're like thank you so much, and like I'm glad. I know that my family genuinely enjoys my books when they review them, but there's also, you're like, I understand that you're maybe a little bit biased, but when a complete stranger leaves a 5-star review, you're just like, yes. I have some inherent value in this world. And I that's honestly my just like the best thing. It's cool.
Yeah, I remember. I think it was the end of the first week of VLOGANOVEL. You had mentioned that someone had contacted you and said that what you were doing was really influencing their own writing. And I remember you were just kind of like on top of the world. You were like, this made the whole week worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, it was somebody who said that since they started watching it happen and the writing occur, they were like, oh, I get it, and and they like cracked open the book that they'd had forever, and they started writing it. And I've gotten several comments since then of people saying either I started a project, or I love this one too. If I put you on and you're on in the background, I'm more productive. And I love that, because one of the things that I started at VLOGANOVEL for was that I knew that if I'm doing this online and there's actually people watching, I'm not going to screw around. I'm not going to go over to Facebook or Twitter or Google Plus or whatever. Those all have their time and place, but I'm not going to screw with my writing time if somebody's watching me while I'm doing it. So if I'm somehow in some weird way giving that also back to the person who's watching, if they're able to have me on and it's making them more productive, dude, that is the greatest thing in the world, and I wish I'd started doing this a year ago. Like, imagine how much further along I'd be.
It is inspiring though, because I know I was watching. I had your show on, and then I was like, I was listening to it while I was doing other stuff online, and then at the end of it, you're like, okay, I hit my 2,000 words. I'm like, Garrett wrote 2,000 words while I spent an hour reading about Gilligan's Island on Wikipedia. And that got me. I wrote a hell of a lot more the next day because it's inspiring when you see other people do it, and it's a possible thing to do.
Yeah, yeah, and we all talk in the community a lot about comparisonitis and how it's a bad thing. Honestly, I like watching other people and seeing what they can do because it gives me. I'm like, oh, I'll bet you I can do it better. And even if I'm wrong, at least I start doing something.
Right, exactly, exactly. What did I want to mention? Oh, we do have some people watching the show live, so I want to thank everyone who's tuned in live. Wade Finnegan's here. John Reed, he said good evening. Let's see here. Zach Dozier had chimed in that he was first earlier. Wade Finnegan did have a question for you, and he posted this earlier, so I'm sorry, I'm just getting to it, Wade. But he was talking about your writing method, and he said, with this method that you're doing, do you ever find that you write yourself into a corner? I think you might have answered that a little bit to a degree.
Yeah, I have. I have that as like a constant fear.
Mhm.
But that is why I write the whole first season outline first, is so that I don't. I think that writing yourself into a corner only really happens when you full blown pants. You just pants a project,
Mhm.
and so by outlining, even if my outline changes, which it does. I prevent myself from really getting just uh, boned, as it were.
Right.
Yeah, that ends up happening.
Also, Chrissy Moss just checked in. She said, "Dang it, I was waiting for this and got caught up in something and missed the first half." Well, hi. So, hi, Chrissy Moss. Thank you for tuning in.
Well, I guess she's not really my friend then.
Well, try to find it in your heart to forgive her. Okay, she is here. And I mentioned Zach Dozier earlier. He said, "I find the episodes where Garrett edits his writing of particular interest. The one where he went through looking for passive voice, I got so much out of that." So there you go, Garrett. What you're
Oh,
doing is really connecting with people. So I think
yeah.
that's fantastic.
That was a good one. That's only something I started doing recently. I should mention somebody else's project. If anybody out there is on Facebook and you want to uh, improve your writing, check out the Facebook group Writers World. No apostrophe. It's Writers World, like World of Writers,
Hmm.
and join. It's a closed group. You can mention I sent them over or whatever, but uh, if you do join, just leave your ego at the door, because basically what it is anybody can post and receive critique from anybody else in the group, but the main critiquers are like the 8 or 10 people who have been there pretty much forever, and they are not they're not cruel, but they are uncompromising. And they're like, this is the and the one thing that I've really gotten out of it is learning editing tricks where I can just search my entire book for being verbs and adverbs and everything like that, and I nuke them, and immediately I like the first draft 10 times better.
Oh,
It's
wow. Okay.
Yeah, so I just unleashed that as a trick on my last one, and it was so much better.
Oh, cool. That's great. That's great. And you mentioned something about leaving the ego at the door. And I think a lot of people have to do that when they're starting writing or anything really in the arts world or anywhere for that matter. I mean, a lot of people, I think, when they're asking for criticism, they just want to hear that something's good.
Right.
And that's understandable. You put a lot of work into something and you want to hear, hey, this is great. But if you really want to learn and grow at what you're doing, you know, take in that criticism. I mean, you don't have to use all of it, but listen to it and you might find a different way of going about what you're doing that can be very beneficial to you.
Right, exactly. And I think that good critique groups are so important for a writer, a filmmaker, whatever. So much so that one of the videos on my blog is how to survive a critique group, and it goes over how to give criticism, how to receive criticism, how to conduct yourself so that it is actually beneficial to you as a writer. And that one actually got adopted by the guy who runs Writers World, and he every time somebody like just starts getting all rah 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 rah, he just posts the video link and is just like, please watch this, and it's just
Oh,
done.
oh, that's cool. That's very
Yeah.
cool. Um, you had mentioned earlier when we were talking about how you're going about writing Nightblade. You had mentioned Realm Keepers. Now I was going to ask you, what's the are there going to be more Realm Keepers books? I
Oh,
know there's two big volumes out, right?
yes. Yeah, there's two big volumes, and those are on that portion of my shelf right there, where the yellow book and the dark red book are.
Hmm.
But I am wrapping up the first draft of the Ninja Bread Man 2, which is
Oh,
another,
okay.
yeah, that's another ZC Bolger collaboration. And then we're going to really quickly write out 3, and then we're going to get back on Realm Keepers book 3, which is as yet untitled, but we're working on it. And we've already got the story meeting aspect done, and Zach needs to start working on the outline. And we are shooting for, fingers crossed, we are shooting for November release, which would be great for. We are not committing to that. I want to say this
Mhm.
now. We are never committing to another release date until our first draft is done, because we did that with Wormspire, and we shit the bed, unfortunately, and we feel pretty crappy about it.
Well,
But
stuff does happen though.
yeah, and but that's we want to shoot it for November because good for Christmas, and then more importantly, that Zach is getting married that month, so he's going to take some
Oh,
time off,
wow.
and
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
et cetera, et cetera.
That's a darn good reason to take some time off.
I know, right?
Yeah. Well, Garrett, I wish you the best with all of these, and I'm excited to keep watching the videos. And if I really encourage people to check them out. You might think, I'm not going to sit and watch a guy write for an hour, but you'd be surprised how entertaining it is. It's pretty cool. You see Garrett there. You see he's got his Scrivener file up, and it's kind of cool watching him edit, seeing the stuff disappear, and it's cool. I know one night you were talking about. It was great. You just started talking about how you liked Rise Against too.
Yeah,
And that got me like, oh, Rise Against this new CD is on Spotify. I got to check that out. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's
No,
fun. Check that out and check
I
out
try
the
to.
books. Two books are out now.
Yeah, yeah. 2 books are out. The first one is perma-free. My readers helped me get that perma-free within the first week. So thank you guys so much. And yeah, you can get it for free everywhere: Amazon, Nook, iBooks, everywhere.
Great, great, and you can find Garrett just about everywhere online too. I mean, he's got the vlog. Which are you doing that? Is it daily, pretty much?
Weekdays,
Weekdays,
pretty much
yeah.
every weekday.
That's great. That's great. And people can. Where's the best place for? Well, GarrettRobinson.com, correct?
Garrett B. Robinson. Some
Oh,
bastard has Garrett Robinson. But yeah,
oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Well,
GarrettBRobinson.com.
you conveniently it's under your name there. That's perfect. So rewind the video if you need to write it down, folks. But it's GarrettBRobinson.com, and I know you're active, very active on Google Plus,
Yes.
and you're on Twitter. And of course,
Yes.
you've got your YouTube channel with tons of great videos. You can go back and watch his old videos, watch the old STP shows, watch his other vlogs. He's got all kinds of fun stuff on there. You can even find some of the films, the short films that you've directed,
Yep.
which are
Yes.
very entertaining.
Ah, thank you.
You're welcome. Garrett, thank you so much for being on the show again. This half hour flew by really quickly. Enjoyed talking with you.
No kidding. Thanks a lot. It's good to talk to you.
My pleasure. Everyone, thank you for tuning in, and I'll be back again next week with a new show. And definitely check out Garrett's stuff. He's a very, very good writer. Everyone
Ah.
take. Oh, it's true though. It's really true. I don't just say that. I mean, I've read your stuff, and you're very, very talented. So thanks again for being on the show. Everybody, have a great week. We'll see you soon.